I'm saying having net reserves at 1.9 billion or the current gross reserves at 6.1 billion, I mean, it's not a thing to be like really alarmed about, because at the way things are going, it's fine. You're going to be rising, paying, barely manage with the current account. I mean, of course, we have to increase our exports and FDI gradually. But what I have been always saying is not that. It's about the external shocks. Anything could come. What the IMF in its projections doesn't count is if there could be a possible shock. Like, for example, Israel having an attack on Iran, oil prices going up, or Trump suddenly, imposing higher tariffs on Sri Lanka, or the Federal Reserve increasing rates. So with that, just to describe Sri Lanka, I'll just not try to make it gloomy, but if you look at the IMF program, most of the targets, I mean, we are doing extremely well on the fiscal side for a nation that came out of the crisis in 2022. So we are having a primary surplus. Primary is expenditure minus revenue minus interest payments. So, but if you compare it to, for example, Mexico went into a near default, almost like our 2022 in 94. So from 1983 to 1994, for 11 years, Mexico had a primary surplus. And in 91, 92, 93, Mexico had a budget surplus. I mean, that is 10 times better performance than Sri Lanka on the IMF parameters or the macroeconomic indicators. So Mexico performed extremely well on the macro side, the fiscal side. It had a surplus. I mean, we can't even imagine a surplus. We are on a 5.2 deficit on the budget surplus. Mexico had a 3% surplus. We have a deficit of 5%. But still in 94, Mexico came close to collapse. That was because one factor, interest rates in the US went up. And there was a little bit of political instability in Mexico. So these two factors brought look at the Asian financial crisis. The macro targets, the IMF related stuff, the fiscal, all of them were good. I mean, Thailand and all had surpluses, primary surplus. But still, within 6 months, they were brought in. Because the problem is, like, we can get the fiscal right, but then fiscal balance and current account balance are different things. Of course, the fiscal side has an effect, according to the twin deficit hypothesis. Like, if you have a large fiscal deficit, it will lead to a larger current account balance. But what we need to also focus is on those things. The Sri Lanka could be very prone because of an external crisis. Let me give a few examples. Like, for example, India. India went close to collapse in 91. Of course, these countries have their own issues, a lot of things, mostly as we see in Sri Lanka, the same issues. It's bloated public service, subsidies, low government revenue, all these things added up. But what brought India to collapse? It was because Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. What brought Mexico's near collapse? Because the US government increased interest rates. And what brought the Argentine crisis in 2001? That was because these are the triggers, not the actual cause, was because Brazil was devaluing its currency. So the Russian crisis came in 98 because of the Asian financial crisis. So there is also a thing called contagion. So one act external, which is completely beyond Sri Lanka's control, can also have an impact on this front.
Certainly.